Today we're driving the 2022 Hyundai IONIQ 5. This is Hyundai's fully electric vehicle. We just recently drove the Kia EV6, which shares a lot of underpinnings with this IONIQ 5, though this has a slightly longer wheelbase. It's a little bit different inside and out. From a design standpoint, it's actually really pretty cool looking. So, some specs and information, and then we'll walk you around this and we'll take you for a drive. This will go 256 miles on a charge with a 77.4 kilowatt hour battery pack. This is the dual motor all-wheel drive, so it makes 320 horsepower. It's actually properly quick. It looks just like a big hatchback, like an old 80s Golf or something, but SUV sized. Really awesome looking DRLs. Very Minecraft 80s design language going on here. Pretty neat in my opinion. It has some excellent fast charging architecture. It can charge from 10 to 80% with a 350 kilowatt hour fast charger in about 18 minutes, which is super impressive, pretty convenient if you can find a fast charger that works. Let's take a look in the back seat here. Pretty spacious inside. I'm 5'10", seats set to my position up front. Plenty of legroom. We have a beautiful panoramic sunroof. Very minimal, sharp, and spacious front seat. Some neat little design elements too. Love these door handles. Kind of look like a big Miata door handle. Some little accents right here. We have zero gravity seats from Hyundai. Lots of physical controls and buttons. The center console slides forward and back so you can get a little bit more room or have some more convenience. There's lots of adjustability with this. You can tilt it up. There's some more storage on the inside here. We'll show you more on that when we head up into the front seat. This top trim is very nicely appointed. Interior materials feel pretty good. You've got a lot of cargo space. Pull down these rear seats. Though it is kind of annoying sometimes because Hyundai likes to lock their seats in place in the downward position. They don't trust gravity for some reason, so you always have to go and unlock them on both sides. And there are no quick releases from the rear trunk hatch area. Look at these taillights. So cool. We have an integrated rear cargo cover here, though you can pull that piece out. A little bit of room underneath here for charge cables, but mostly you have this slightly smaller cargo floor. It's a little bit higher up, but I think it'll get the job done. You've got plenty of roof height to fit items in here. And even though this looks like a hatchback, it's deceivingly large on the outside. It's actually the longest wheelbase of any Hyundai vehicle on sale, which is pretty neat. We have 255 45R 20-inch Michelin Primacy Tour all-season tires. Pretty neat looking wheels as well. There's a little bit of a frunk, but not much to speak of. You can fit your user manual in there. That's about it. It's mostly just electric vehicle bits, AC parts, fluids. I'll just give you guys a peek just for the sake of doing it. Fit your laptop in there maybe, if that. That's all you get. A little short on storage, but lots of cargo space on the inside and plenty of room for passengers. Okay, this front seat is a really neat space. Very open, very spacious, very large. We have an integrated door pull handle into this side piece, which I think is very clever. Love the feel of this door handle. All of your inputs and the tactility of all the buttons and switchgear in this IONIQ 5 is very consistent. The turn signal feel, the door handle feel, everything is just nice and I don't know, it feels high quality. It feels pretty well made. All the materials in here feel pretty nice too, especially for a $55,000 vehicle. Yeah, high marks on first impressions. We have two nice looking screens, both about the same size, pretty responsive. Only knock is no wireless CarPlay or Android Auto. You have to use a cable connection, but everything is very quick to respond. No home buttons, unfortunately, but you can program in with this star button, a home button. You can program this to perform a number of different functions. So I guess that actually kind of works. And there's another one here on the steering wheel, which is very cool. We have Hyundai's Highway Driving Assist 2. We'll test that out a little bit on the highway. It's supposed to be kind of an enhanced automated driving system. We'll see how it does. A few different drive modes: Eco, Normal, and Sport. Pretty straightforward controls here over to the left. You have 1 of 100 settings for your screen illumination and gauge cluster illumination. Parking brake is over here, traction control off button, a button to pop the trunk, and a couple more USB ports. Wireless charging is cleverly hidden down here, and then you can move this center console piece back and forward right here. Slides quite a bit, and looks pretty good in my opinion. Lots of rubberized base materials for all of these pockets and storage spots. Here's what the key looks like. You can park this in and out, pop the trunk, open the charge port, honk the horn, start the car, all those usual Hyundai functions. Actually, let's pop the charge port. That's kind of a cool thing to look at. This can charge at home on 240 level 2 charging in about 8 hours. But it looks like I'm not able to open the charge port while the vehicle is on. There we go. Okay, so you've got this little graph here with these LEDs that'll show you how high the vehicle's charged. I think we're at like a 97 or 98% charge right now, so that's going to be full. You can pull this to quick charge it, but for the most part, pretty standard charge port, but it is neat to see this door open and close, conveniently located at the back of the vehicle. Check out these door handles too. Flush mounted when they lock. We also get window shades in the back and a neat little window button. Look at some of the design elements that Hyundai has incorporated into this IONIQ 5. Just some super cool stuff. Hyundai's really starting to innovate with their design language, and this car is just one of the best examples I've seen. If they take this design language forward into some of their future models, I'm going to be super impressed with some of their future offerings. The only knock that I have against this car is that it isn't sold in all 50 states yet. We've got a handful of states, Texas, Indiana, a bunch of others that I can't remember that I'll put in the description. But, so if you want one of these, it's going to be a little bit more difficult to purchase than the EV6, for example. So you're going to have to do some searching, maybe do some traveling. But Hyundai is going to be rolling it out and releasing it in more states as time goes on. With a 2023 model year, we've seen a few changes with the IONIQ 5, so hopefully they will expand availability too. We get 10 more miles of range out of this for the 2023 model year. Instead of 256, it'll do 266 in this all-wheel drive, a long-range form. But the IONIQ 5, I think, is pretty well priced for what it is. This is about 55 grand. It starts at around $40,000 for the standard range rear-wheel drive single motor. And haven't driven that, so can't comment on that. But let's go and drive this top trim and see how it does on the road. Nice looking reverse camera, 360 cam. You can zoom in and out from above. That's always cool. And then you can see and swipe around your Hyundai IONIQ 5 with this. That's pretty neat. Forward-facing camera as well. And as soon as you set off, this will kind of show you a neat little graphic display of your car. You can also just look out the window. That works too. Quick access parking camera button too, which is pretty neat. Lots of physical buttons for everything except for the climate controls, but these are large enough and clearly defined enough to use in normal driving without too many issues. Got kind of a unique shifter here. You twist it forward to go forward, twist it back to go reverse, hit the P button to park. Pretty intuitive and easy to use in my experience this week, and it saves some space here in the center area I think Hyundai's done a really nice job innovating with this interior space and getting the most out of this as an electric vehicle and taking advantage of some of the differences that they can implement versus a traditional internal combustion engine vehicle. So lots of fun stuff here to get excited about beyond just the design language and the way this thing looks. All right, let's go see how it drives. From behind the wheel, it actually feels pretty similar to the Kia EV6. It rides very well. It's pretty softly sprung. Steering is pretty numb, not a lot of feedback or feel. At speeds below 25 miles per hour, city environments, stoplights, slow traffic, you can hear there's just a little bit of an electric noise pumped out via speaker underneath the car. That's to warn pedestrians that you're coming. If you roll down the windows, you can hear it a little bit better. And then once you pass 25 miles an hour, it just kind of fades away. And this becomes a pretty quiet electric vehicle to drive. We have paddles behind the wheel that control our level of regenerative braking. And an accelerator pedal that really puts down some power. This IONIQ 5 is quick, especially in this form. So you have 3 levels of regen. Level 0 is just coast, and it'll coast for a long time. Go all the way to I pedal, and you get 1 pedal driving. You do have to enable that every time you start up the vehicle. It will default to level 3 of regenerative braking. So something to note there. But it is a pretty nicely tuned 1 pedal drive system. Plenty of regen off throttle. You sometimes have to dip into the brakes occasionally if you're coming a little bit hot into an intersection or into a turn. But for the most part this week, I've used 1 pedal driving for the majority of my driving. It's very smooth, quiet, relaxing, and comfortable EV to drive. I love these seats, like the driving position. Great visibility forward, side, and behind me. Even if it's maybe a little bit dull to drive, you can get quite a bit of an exciting rush out of the acceleration that this thing offers. It is properly quick. And, good on Hyundai, you can completely disable traction and stability control, so you can do some pretty fun all-wheel drive drifts in this, in the snow, in the winter. Really curious to see if we can get our hands on one of these in the wintertime and see how it does in the snow. I'm sure it will perform exceedingly well. It is a rear-biased dual motor setup, so there's more power coming out of that rear motor than the front motor, which I think is positive. Definitely helps keep this neutral around the corners. Let's put us into sport mode and see if that changes anything. Coming to a complete stop here off the accelerator pedal. This IONIQ 5 does get a lot of attention. People just look at it and wonder what the heck this thing is. All right, off we go. Do a little launch here. It does feel a little bit hefty around corners. Weighs about 4,600 pounds. So it's lighter than options like the Mustang Mach-E, but heavier than some others like the Tesla Model Y, but not by too much. All right, highway driving assist. This should keep us pretty well centered between the lines. We have steering assist and automatic lane changing. It does take a really long time to change lanes though, and it does want you to keep your hands on the steering wheel, which I think defeats the purpose of the automatic lane changing system. Still though, it does a pretty nice job. Seems to work well enough. It will show you some graphics of vehicles ahead of you and around you. I'm just going to change lanes myself because it takes less time. Alright. We're going to cancel our steering assist and our cruise control, getting little beeps indicating that those systems are off. It's pretty quiet on the highway at speed. Doesn't make a lot of noise. No NVH from the tires. These Michelins are pretty silent. And a little bit of wind noise, but not too bad. One of the quieter EVs that we've driven recently. Yeah, pretty strong levels of regenerative braking too. I believe this also has a system that will kind of observe traffic around you and adjust the level of regenerative braking according to vehicles in front of you and how far ahead they are and how much they've slowed down. It's a pretty intuitive system to use, and I've really enjoyed driving this car around this week. It's been very easy and just relaxing. Love the screens that Hyundai is putting in their cars these days. They're so sharp. The graphics are beautifully designed. Really nice colors. Great brightness, even in broad daylight. Bright sunny day like we have today. Alright, let's do traction off here and see if we can have any fun on an entrance ramp. Complaining from the Michelins here. Not so quiet anymore, are ya? Okay, well, it's a safe handling setup. Not too active. A little bit squishy. But I appreciate that this is a comfortable car to drive. I'm sure we'll see an N version of this IONIQ 5 at some point. Observe highway driving assist just a little bit. See how it does here. This actually does follow vehicles ahead of you pretty closely in the closest following distance setting. Seems to be doing a pretty nice job keeping us centered between the lines. A little bit of moving back and forth, but we do have grooved pavement on this stretch of highway, and that tends to kind of throw systems off a little bit. I can't believe how quiet this is at 80 miles an hour. That's really impressive. Has a drag coefficient of only 0.29, which is pretty good for something that's basically just shaped like a big hatchback. Alright, we're going to try an auto lane change here. Okay, did a little bit quicker that time. Didn't take as much time to make it across. Doing a pretty good job here. Probably just going to rest my hand on the wheel. I do really like this two-spoke design. Armrests seem to be placed at about the right spot. No problem finding a comfortable driving position this week. Go into our right lane here. See how it negotiates it on a corner. Nice job. Occasionally it's asking me for just a little bit of torque on the wheel to keep my hands on the steering wheel, but for the most part, Highway Driving Assist 2 is doing pretty well. Yeah, it's wanting to keep me on my hands on the wheel around a corner. Fair enough. That's understandable. I don't believe we have all of the same enhanced noises that the EV6 had. EV6, you could select between a bunch of different engine or electric motor sounds, and this IONIQ 5 keeps it a little bit more simple. I love that there's so much separation and such a difference between these two cars, even though they share a lot of the same components. They're completely different personalities. They ride and kind of feel similar going down the road, but for the most part, this IONIQ 5 is a very different car. And I actually kind of prefer it a little bit to the EV6. It has a little bit more, and that's mostly a design preference. I think the EV6 might be a little bit sharper, maybe a little bit more fun to drive and agile feeling. This is a little bit softer and heavier around corners. But when you're pushing the limit in these EVs with their weight, it's kind of splitting hairs at that point. They both drive really well down the road. Go back into normal mode and back into CarPlay here. Alright, turning off all of our steering assist and exiting off the highway. .320 horsepower goes a long way when it's available to you all the time, at any speed, any RPM. All right, off the line. Nice. All right, back into sport mode. Let's see how we do on another entrance ramp here. It really is hard to beat an EV as a daily driver. The speed, the responsiveness, the quietness, the comfort level. Only complaint I've had about this IONIQ 5 this week is that I've gotten a few occasional rattles from the rear hatch area. It seems to be kind of common in a lot of Hyundais and Kias that I've driven over the years with hatchbacks or liftbacks. It does decrease as the temperatures rise throughout the day, but it's just kind of a clicking sound that I've experienced this week in this IONIQ 5. It doesn't seem to be making it too much during the video, which is good. You might be able to see we have an augmented reality head-up display. Seems like it's 3D, like it's tracking my eyes because it's always in the same place. Shows us our
Watch
speed,
out, hazard reported ahead,
our cruise control settings, some following distance information, and of course vehicles ahead of us. Let's see how well it navigates around a slower vehicle. Alright, so we're going to put our turn signal on, let it auto lane change, and it's accelerating reasonably quickly. When you disable cruise control or pause the system and you are in iPedal mode, which is the full regenerative braking mode, there's a little bit of a pause between canceling and it going into full regen, which is nice. It gives you some time to kind of blend the acceleration level or coasting level of cruise control with full regenerative braking, which is nice. Full regen here. Once it gets into it, it's pretty strong. body roll, lots of complaining from the tires, but overall pretty well balanced. Handles nicely enough for a passenger vehicle of this type. Again, this is not intended to be a performance car yet. I'm sure we'll see one in the future, but I like how comfortable it is, especially on these 20-inch wheels and on our rough Michigan roads. Okay guys, so how can we sum up the Hyundai IONIQ 5? I really like this thing. I think it is so cool to look at. It is just a wonderfully designed vehicle. It's really kind of quirky and futuristic. It maybe doesn't drive as special or feel as special as it looks, but it is very comfortable. It's very quiet. It's easy to use. There's nothing too ridiculously outlandish about this interior. I think everything, including the steering wheel, is nicely functional. It blends design, form, and function together quite well. I appreciate all the physical buttons. I mean, a lot of this is just traditional Hyundai switchgear modified slightly for improved aesthetics. I like that we have some physical controls and buttons. I actually kind of prefer this interior a little bit to the EV6, where we have this switchable climate control setup. Down here we've got constant buttons and constant buttons for our infotainment. Performance is going to be impressive for most people. This is a pretty quick EV to drive, under 5 seconds to 60 miles per hour in all-wheel drive form. Range is very respectable too. You can expect a little over 200 miles on 75 miles an hour on the highway just cruising, and 256 miles in a mix of city highway driving. The fast charging architecture is excellent in this IONIQ 5, something that you don't get in a lot of EVs at this price. Of course, the only negative is you have to find a charger that actually works. And in all the non-Tesla networks, that's becoming a little bit of a challenge. That will only improve with time, hopefully. But gosh, as a daily driver, this is one of my favorite EVs. I think this and the new Audi e-tron GT are some of the most impressive EVs that I've driven lately. The packaging with this IONIQ 5 is pretty ideal. It's a nice shape, it's a nice size, a little bit more practical than the Mustang Mach-E and some of its other competitors, and it just looks so cool. I think that's one of the biggest selling points of this IONIQ 5, and really, this is kind of what it's coming down to these days. Design, features, price point, because a lot of these EVs, honestly, drive about the same. Similar performance levels, similar tuning. It's not like we have engines and transmissions to differentiate these cars. Very nice EV overall. I just wish they sold it in more states, and hopefully they can increase the availability here in the 2023 model year. I'd be excited to drive some of the rear-wheel drive options of this IONIQ 5 in the future. I think that promises to be quite compelling as a more budget-oriented alternative. But until then, very cool. Well done, Hyundai. So anyway, that's going to be a wrap on this review. Hopefully we can get our hands back on one of these in the winter time and see how it does in the snow. But until then, appreciate you guys watching. Thanks for all the support lately. We'll see you in the next video. Take care. Oh, you do have to turn it off. You can't just get out and leave like you can in some EVs. So in that sense, it's more of a traditional automobile.